welcome to the very first episode of Phoenix Financial. My name is Joe Camargo, and I have spent the bulk of my adult life, almost 30 years, in financial services. During that time, I've held 7 licenses, I've held 2 designations, and during 22 of those nearly 30 years, I've worked for arguably some of the more reputable and recognizable firms within the industry. Fidelity Investments, Wells Fargo Advisors, and State Street Bank and Trust. 22 years. And from there, I launched my own investment firm, Phoenix Financial, of course, right? Fully registered with both the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Commonwealth, duly licensed, all of those things. Even holding an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, which I still proudly maintain to this day. So that's me in a nutshell. Again, I've held a number of licenses, I've held a number of designations, I've run my own fully licensed and fully registered investment advisory firm, and now I'm launching this YouTube channel. But before I formally introduce the channel, before I do, I would be 100% remiss in not sharing how genuinely excited I am to finally get this channel off the ground, and how equally excited I am in having you join me. To be honest, it's been a long road, so thank you again for tuning in. It means a lot. Also, before I forget, and with you in mind, part of me feels as though I should almost be apologizing in advance, and I say that jokingly, of course, right? Because as I just mentioned, this is the very first video, so it's probably going to be a little clunky. I'm still learning the technical aspects of social media, production, editing, etc. And I am finding out very quickly that there's a lot to this social media thing. Okay, now that we've got that all out of the way, and you've learned a little bit about me and my background, let's talk about the channel. So the model right now is actually pretty simple. The goal is to spend some time talking about 3 things, really: the economy, the global markets, and financial literacy in general. And whenever possible, even though we're not a news channel, definitely not a news channel, we'll also devote some time examining current events. Why? Well, for 2 reasons, really. One, because current events just have a way of tying into macroeconomic activity. And 2, well, because it's important. I think it is, right? So, whether it be domestic or international, social, political, and of course financial, if it's newsworthy and has had or is having a genuine impact, I think it's a pretty safe bet that I'll have some thoughts on it. Okay, that's it. And as I mentioned again, this is the first of what I genuinely hope will be a long line of educational content. Both for people that are maybe just getting started, as well as for those that are maybe a little bit more advanced, and hopefully for everyone in between. And I mean everyone. And so from a financial literacy standpoint, the obvious, or maybe not so obvious question might be, what exactly am I looking to cover? And the answer, to be honest, is a lot. And so to do that, I'll be borrowing material from my old curriculum at the College for Financial Planning, some of which you might see behind me here, from other reputable sources, of course, as well as drawing from my own experience in the field. And so we'll start by introducing some basic concepts like budgeting and lending, for example, right? 2 areas that I found over the years many households, both young and old, had some trouble managing, whether they realized it or not. So that's important. We'll talk about saving money. We'll talk about investing. We'll talk about saving versus investing versus trading, because yes, There is a difference, 100%. Um, we'll also, as a for instance, we'll look at some more advanced concepts, right? Such as the markets, this sometimes nebulous thing that we call the markets. What are they? Investment risk, what is it? And how do you define it? And how do you manage through it? Valuation, how would you value an investment? Would you use fundamental analysis or technical analysis or both? We'll explore day trading, maybe even cryptocurrency. But at the end of the day, it's whatever you show interest in, right? So if there is something you'd like to see on the channel, then just leave me a note in the comments section. And I'll do my absolute best. I promise. Now, in terms of the economy, we will most definitely spend some time here. And I say that because it just seems like almost every single day we're bombarded with news, right? The economy is up, the economy is down. But I find it's rarely explained in ways that make sense. So we'll try to make sense of it. And we'll try to do so in an easy to follow format, hopefully. We'll see. Now, in terms of both the economy and the global markets, we're definitely going to take a bit of a different approach here as well. And here's what I mean. Almost every bit of news data, economic news data, focuses on just our economy. And although that's obviously important, right, for sure, for obvious reasons, exactly how we compare to other developed countries, who's creating jobs, who's not creating jobs, who's in a recession, who's not in a recession, who else is battling inflation, the quick answer, by the way, is everyone. So having a good handle on things like these, understanding where we sit within the global community without all of the political noise, I think is incredibly important. And for me, it's particularly important because, quite honestly, this is an area where I've seen and continue to see just unacceptable amounts of sometimes blatant and sometimes callous disinformation. And that's coming from both the private and the public sectors. And look, I'm not going to get into a political discussion right now, but that is never a good thing. And so we'll talk about that down the road. I am sure of it. And so that's the plan. The economy, the global markets, financial literacy, and current events. Okay, some quick additional background information. When I launched the firm years ago, the initial focus was providing wealth management, teaching financial literacy, and consulting on, and here's my 10-cent phrase of the day, global macroeconomic analytics, which is really just a fancy way of saying I follow the global economy. Yeah, I'm a bit of a geek. Guilty as charged. Unfortunately, and without getting into specifics, things didn't quite work out the way I had planned. Along came this thing called COVID, and for all intents and purposes, it shuttered the wealth management arm of the firm, which is fine because although for now wealth management isn't one of the company's core competencies, for now, I still have a passion for the markets. And I still have a passion for teaching about the markets and about investing. Honestly, they are easily the two primary reasons as to why I'm launching this channel in the first place. Education, financial education, especially given the environment that we find ourselves in today. So what do I mean by that? Okay, well, today, even though we've bounced off of the tariff-related April lows, which were a bit scary for a lot of people, let's be honest. Today, the global markets are still pretty tenuous. I don't think anyone would argue that point. Today, both investor and consumer confidence are also pretty tenuous. No one would argue that. And sadly, today, and this seems to be more and more a recurring theme. Political tensions, coast to coast, are absolutely at a boiling point. I don't think anyone would argue that point either. I mean, the rhetoric and the violence that we're seeing, no way. So all of that said, I think people have some legitimate concerns right now, right? And this content that I'm producing, I hope is pretty timely, pretty relevant, and hopefully pretty helpful. And although it's still unclear as to whether we're looking at or heading towards another recession, it's too early, I think. My time in this profession, the licenses and designations I've held, navigating through 4 recessions, my overall pedigree, don't make me Warren Buffett, obviously. But I genuinely feel that they all not only give me additional clarity, but also, and maybe more importantly, they give me some measure of credibility that most others on social media, for example, aren't going to have. And I think combined, they help me bring a unique perspective. Maybe not always right, but certainly unique, and hopefully unbiased. That's something that's always been very important to me. And that's it. Publishing relevant, timely, helpful, and with a little bit of luck, fun content. That is the goal. So keep an eye out for future videos. I'm shooting for maybe a video per week to start. And hit the like and subscribe button and share. Thanks for watching. Till next time, be good to one another, and God bless.